Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and today I'm going to show you how to put in a zipper. This is going to be a zipper like you would put in the seam of clothing, so like the back seam of a dress or the side seam of a skirt. This is the zipper that I'm going to put in. It's just a zipper that I had hanging around, and I'm going to put it in the seam between these two pieces of fabric. So, I need to do a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to do is actually sew that seam, but I need to make some markings on the fabric first. The zipper usually has, between the top of the zipper and the top of the zipper tape, it's usually 5/8 of an inch, which is good because that's how much of a seam allowance there normally is there, so that'll let you finish the top of the garment the normal way, and then the zipper will come right to the top of things. And I checked on this one, it is 5/8, so that's going to work really well. I don't need to do any kind of trimming. But what I need to mark is where the zipper, the stop of the zipper ends, and that's right here. And I'll show you when we get to the machine. But basically we're going to sew this part with a regular stitch length, and everything from here up, which is where the zipper is going to go, we're going to sew with a basting stitch. So let's take it over to the machine. So I'm starting now with the bottom of the zipper. This is the part where there's not going to be a zipper, the part of the seam. I'm using a regular 5/8 seam allowance, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That's standard for most clothing patterns that you get, and I don't mess with that when I'm putting in a zipper. A lot of times on my own patterns I'll just give things a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but if I'm going to put in a zipper, I'll give it the full 5/8. It makes it easier to finish afterwards. So I'm going to back stitch. I'm sewing this with a regular stitch length. Now remember, I marked this spot with a pin. This is where the zipper starts. So I'm taking one more stitch to even up with it. Now I'm going to back stitch because I want to lock those stitches in. When I get back up to where I came, I'm going to increase my stitch length as long as it'll go. So I've got a basting stitch here. I'm taking out that pin marker, and I'm going all the way up to the top of the garment. And I don't back stitch there. So I pull it out, trim it off, and you can see we've got short stitches here, a back stitch to lock that in place, and then we've got some long stitches here. Now we're going to take it back to the ironing board. Okay, what I'm going to do now is press this seam open. A lot of seams you'll press to one side or the other, but when you're putting a zipper in, you want to press the seam open so it's flat and you have a flap on both sides of the seam. Get it nice and flat. And then I'm just going to double check. Yep, this is the part where my basting stitch is. So I need to get this zipper in place so that it is exactly laying down, so that the teeth of the zipper are laying down right over that seam. I want this zipper to be exactly centered over the seam. Now you can do a very complicated thing with pins where you pin from the back and then flip it over and pin from the front, and then you take out the pins on the back, and I just use masking tape. I'm going to sew right through it. This is painter's tape, so it doesn't have a lot of adhesive on it, and I found that it does not gum up my needle very much. I don't know if this is frowned upon by sewing machine manufacturers and sewing teachers, but I use it and it works really well. So I'm just double checking to make sure that my zipper is right over that seam, and I'm going to put some of this tape every couple of inches. I want to hold that really securely because I have to sew from the front. Alright, so now we've got that ready to sew, and we're going to go back to the machine. I need to switch out now my regular presser foot for the zipper foot. And I've shown you in another video on sewing in an exposed zipper how to use the zipper foot. But so I don't need to show you all the details again. But the thing that's nice about it is that it shifts everything over, so I have a lot more room here to have the zipper without it running into the foot. Now I've got my zipper taped on the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down one side across the bottom and then up the other side. So I'm basically going to make a box around this zipper. Okay, so I can feel where the zipper is here. I'm hitting the head of the zipper. I'll come back and clean that up after I'm done. So right now I'm going to start just a little bit past the head. I'm going to back stitch a little bit. Oops, I left it on my long stitch length. Put it back on a regular stitch length. We'll try that again. Back stitch a little bit, lock it in. And I'm pushing the zipper. I can feel the zipper pushing up against this side of the zipper foot there. I'm just sewing right through those pieces of tape on the back. And now I can feel my zipper teeth are ending right in there. So I'm going to put the needle down, turn it, make really sure I'm not trying to sew over that metal piece because that is going to break my needle for sure. Nope, I'm past the zipper there. Right across the bottom, and then I'm going to turn it and go up the other side. And I did this in a contrasting thread so you can really see the box that it makes. Now again, I'm pushing that zipper. I can feel the metal teeth of the zipper here, pushing it right up against that presser foot. I'm going to come back up. I can feel the pull here. So I'm going to back stitch. I'm going to take this out. And now I'm going to use my seam ripper. And I'm going to start below where that zipper pull is. I'm just going to start down here where I've got everything sewn. And since I used those long stitches, it's really easy to pull them apart just one stitch at a time. I'm just sliding my seam ripper under there, pulling out those stitches, actually cutting them. I don't recommend just putting the end of the seam ripper in there and just giving it a good push. That is very sharp inside the seam ripper, and I have tried that little shortcut and ended up cutting right into my fabric. So I do work it through so that I'm picking out every stitch as I go. This is a dull seam ripper that's gotten lots and lots of use. So you work your way down to the bottom, and now you can see that my zipper is hidden underneath those flaps, and you'll go through and pull out all those loose threads. But now we need to take care of this zipper pull up here. So I'm going to open up one more so I can get to it. And as soon as I can get to that pull, just be careful with it. I think, yep, I can see it now. So I'm going to take that little tongue and I'm going to unzip my zipper. I couldn't open that because I still had the tape here on the back. So you need to pull the tape off, at least down that center bit, and it usually tears right along here. And you'll need to go through and kind of be gentle around the stitching line because you don't want to pull your stitches up. But the sewing really perforates the tape and tends to make it come off pretty easily. But I'm going to, now that I've cleared the way for that, unzip my zipper, and then I'm going to sew this last little bit. Get my thread going under the presser foot. So this usually, and you want this to just kind of eyeball, see how much it sticks out over the other teeth, and make sure you're being consistent with it. And just sew that right up to the edge. And then, to sew the other side, what I usually do is switch my zipper foot to the other side. so that I can start right where this stitching left off. That's the nice thing about the two-sided zipper foot like this. Make sure I get my teeth lined up. Caught on my zipper foot there. So, you can see you've got a lot of loose threads to take care of on the front, these tail ends, but I find that this gives me a nice straight edge around the zipper, where if you leave the pull up top, you end up having your line of stitching go around a little bit, because this is so much bigger and bulkier that the zipper foot even isn't enough to go around it. So clean up all your threads on the front, and then peel up all of your masking tape on the back. Again, be very careful where the stitches are, but it perforates and usually tears off pretty easily, and you have a zipper. So that's it. That's how you sew a zipper in a seam. It's really so much easier than I ever thought it was. Zippers are not the most difficult closure there is, and when you use the masking tape, it's really quick and easy to stitch them in place. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you next time.